Whenever Elma Edvan sees or learns something, he feels like he's always known it for a long time, and today is no different. As the heir of the Edvan household, he is about to undergo the divine blessing ceremony. But this situation fills Elma with a strong sense of déjà vu. Perhaps his father interpreted this as him being nervous, making him remind the young man not to worry. He believes the God of Sword will bestow his child a powerful class. The priest calls upon Elma to begin the ceremony. As he hears the priest cast baptism, memories come rushing in from 5 years, before he was even born. This world is the same as the VR-supported online game called Magic World. He used to play this in his previous life. If that's the case, Elma still wants to get his favorite class. It's the strongest yet crappy class well known in Magic World, Heavy Knight. Elma smiles before telling his father he's now a Heavy Knight. But instead of happiness or pride, the emotion plastered on his father's face is despair. He just misheard his son, right? He said Sword Saint, did he not? Shoot, Elma mixed up the memory of his previous and current life. In this world, strong and easy to master classes are highly favored. In contrast, technical and late bloomer classes are spit on. Perhaps it's because this world is yet to progress in assessing and evaluating the class's real potential. Elma's silence does nothing to quell his father's rising anger. Yanking his son by the arm, he looks at the status board to confirm his class, and that's enough to make him snap. What the heck does Heavy Knight even mean? The numbers are so low, and Elma doesn't have a single attack skill. It's clear to his father that this is a faulty class. Elma tries to calm his father, pointing out how his HP and defense are in the top bracket, but all he gets in response is a hard slap on the face. The head of the Edvan household has no concern for such things. Now he's glad he had this ceremony conducted privately. Elma's shame would have made the Edvan household lose face. Attention shifts from the failure of a son to a beautiful young lady belonging to the branch family of the Edvan household. Marie is here to also have her divine blessing ceremony. Looking at her now, Elma recalls playing with her a few times as children. But for the past 5 years, he's only seen her from a distance, and they've barely spoken to each other. The priest hesitates to start the ceremony initially, but the head of the Edvan household tells him to proceed while loathingly peering at his son. Elma has a bad feeling about this. With the baptism done, Marie brings out her status board and discovers she has become a sword saint. Looking down at Elma, she apologizes none too sincerely. It seems she has robbed him of talent. Elma's sense of foreboding from before is correct. His father jubilantly approaches Marie and announces she will be his daughter from now on and heir to the Edvan household. Marie quickly drops all her false respect for Elma as she asks her father to confirm her newfound status. The hot-headed man turns to the Heavy Knight and tells him to get lost. He, who has betrayed his expectations, is no longer his son. Elma will bring nothing but shame to the Edvan household with his faulty class. The Heavy Knight tries desperately to defend himself, but it's no use. His father no longer wants anything to do with him, and if Elma dares use the Edvan name outside, he'll cut off his head with his own 2 hands. Just like that, Elma lost everything he came to know. All he has with him is little money and his faulty class. Retreating to an inn, Elma reflects on the past event. He can't believe his father. What a heartless thing to do. Though he's lost his home, friends, and family, Elma still has the strongest class, Heavy Knight. This world's history and topography, even the city name, Rondelm, completely differs from the game. Elma guesses he'll need to explore this realm gradually. Before that, he must verify his class and skills. If Heavy Knight's specs are different here, that will deal quite a blow to him. Elma sighs in relief as he stares at the skill tree. They're still the same. With the skill tree, people can choose which skills to upgrade. Everyone gains 5 bonus points after being granted a class, and every time their level increases, the skill points increase by 1. It's no exaggeration to say that the skill tree determines everyone's fate when they acquire it. 2 types of skill tree exist, class-specific ones and those acquired randomly after creating a character. And among Elma's skill trees, his only class-specific skill is Vow of the Heavy Armor. It's exclusive for the Heavy Knight and is said to be the weakest joke skill tree ever to exist. The skills gained from it are powerful but overwhelmingly difficult to handle. Elma does have other skill trees. Increased defense doesn't give new skills but steadily improves defensive power. Then, Novice Swordsmanship uses unique items to evolve into superior swordsmanship. Given all he knows, Elma dumps all his bonus points to Vow of the Heavy Armor. His body glows otherworldly as the skill tree levels up. At level 2, Elma acquires the normal skill, Rampart Returns, and at level 5, he gains plus 10 to defense. Itching to test out his class, Elma ventures into the forest. Despite his tight budget, he buys an inferior soldier's sword and a decent-looking iron armor. Not long after entering the woods, a level 2 Lana appears from the bushes. It eyes Elma before jumping to attack. Instead of raising his sword, he activates Rampart Return by widening his stance and puffing his chest. The Lana bounces off an invisible shield before it can touch Elma. This is the power of the normal skill Rampart Return. If the user's defense is higher than the enemy's, their attack will be blocked. Elma eyes the crushed Lana's corpse. It's still such a gruesome sight to him. From the sordid flesh of the monster, he retrieves a level 2 Mana Stone. It's cheap, but worth it enough to keep. From behind, Elma hears someone screaming for help. It's an adventurer, and an army of Lanas is hot on his heels. Elma confidently tells the man to leave the monsters to him. With his getup, the adventurer assumes this guy must be a well-known adventurer. Nope, Elma just had his first level up moments ago. The man immediately says it's impossible. A level 2 rookie can't take on the army of Lanas. He should just take off his heavy armor and run away. But Elma stands resolutely on the spot while the man grits his teeth, bracing himself for impact. The amphibians bounce off the invisible surface surrounding the heavy knight. The Lanas collide, fly off, and fall one after the other. When the adventurer raises his head to inspect the scene, the army of Lanas has fallen. That many monsters all at once. Who is this guy? Remembering to discard his family name, he introduces himself as Elma, the Heavy Knight. Defeating an army of Lanas proves profitable for the new adventurer. Elma raises his level from 2 to 8 and gains the title The Immovable just from this encounter. Opening his status board, he concludes there's no doubt that this world is the same as Magic World. The adventurer apologizes for the late introduction and says he is Aris. His party told him they couldn't trust him if he couldn't at least become level 3 alone. That's why he's out here working his bum off. He couldn't be more thankful for Elma saving him. But no thanks necessary. After all, the Heavy Knight is only here to earn money, so he'll take all the Mana Stones. That's no problem at all for Aris. He'd love for the Heavy Knight to join him and the party of 2 he's applying for. Though defense-oriented classes are unpopular, Aris thinks Elma's an amazing guy. Without so much as a glance at the adventurer, the Heavy Knight turns down his offer. Aris is taken aback. Judging from the encounter with the Lanas, Elma's class is defense-oriented. He won't level up for the rest of his life if he goes for a solo play. But Elma cannot be convinced and simply apologizes to Aris. Contemplating, he knows the adventurer is right. The true value of defense-oriented classes can only be demonstrated when fighting in a group by attracting enemies and shielding companions. But it's not how Elma wants to level up. If he had allies around him, instead of gaining delicious EXP, it'd be distributed to everyone. Elma plans to acquire items, skills, and titles. Having many people with him will only attract suspicion. They'll wonder how he knows so much about this world and leveling up, and he cannot reveal those things at such an early stage. Aris proves just as stubborn as Elma. All he's saying is for the Heavy Knight's sake. Sure, he's an amazing guy, but Elma's current method of leveling up is inefficient. He's better off joining forces with Aris and aiming for higher level monsters. All the adventurer's shouts attract a giant spider monkey. The blood drains from his face as he can't believe such a thing is in the shallow part of the forest. As Elma checks the monster's status, Aris barely dodges its attack. A level 16 Alanda ape. That's what they're dealing with. Perhaps it used stealth to erase its presence. Alanda apes are swift and spit poison that hinders movement. They also have blazing claws as an additional skill. This is bad. Elma's Rampart Return skill is useless against high-level opponents. He'll need to completely block off its attack to activate the skill. But one hit from the Alpha Ape's blazing claws and Elma's as good as dead. Aris thumps his fist in frustration. This is all his fault. He attracted this monster. Shakily standing, Aris draws his sword and tells Elma to run away. But judging by his unstable stance, the Heavy Knight is better off protecting him. Elma steps forward to shield Aris. The adventurer screams that it's useless, but he also knows that this monster isn't an opponent he can defeat at the moment. But that doesn't mean Elma's about to give up. His status board shows he still has 7 skill points from leveling up. Putting it all into Vow of the Heavy Armor, Elma resolves to bet everything on this skill tree. Normal skill Disarm has been acquired. Through this skill, the attack power of an opponent will be reduced by 20% for 1 minute after being slashed. And this is exactly what Elma needs to defeat the Alanda ape. He taunts the monster, prompting it to speed toward him. The Arachnid and the Heavy Knight clash. High risk, high return. During these times, Elma's soul burns with excitement the most. The Alanda ape growls as it misses its target. It rapidly attacks, but the Heavy Knight dodges them expertly. Elma knows the monster's patterns and reach. Still, it won't be an easy win. The angered arachnid roars as it prepares a special attack. From its mouth comes light of poison. Standing his ground, Elma takes this chance to face tank the strike before charging at the monster. He uses this arm to graze the side of the Elanda ape's head. The hit did nearly 0 damage, but the debuff reduced attack power was inflicted. Growling, the arachnid shows it's far from running out of steam. It raises its front legs and activates Flame Claw. The rapid strikes from the monster have dust flying everywhere. But once they dissipate, Elma is still standing, his sword ready. Looking at its MP bar, the Heavy Knight knew the Elanda ape's special skill wouldn't work. Light of Poison's MP consumption is 7 and Flame Claw's consumption is 5. Elma lands another strike. With this, Disarm's 2-hit attack has reduced the Elanda ape's attack power by 40%. Also, thanks to the Heavy Knight's title, the Immovable, standing still gives him plus 10% to defense. The conditions are met. Elma holds his ground as the Elanda ape rampages straight at him. Rampart Return activates and deflects the arachnid's attack. It lands on its back, unable to get up. Elma pierces the arachnid's large cephalothorax and gains 4 levels from its defeat. Pulling up his status board, the Heavy Knight sees he can't upgrade Vow of the Heavy Armor for now. Elma's seen this message before. It seems this limit exists just like in Magic World, but by reaching the skill tree's level 15, Elma has acquired Parry, the last of all the basic skills. Ares rushes to where the Heavy Knight is. He can't believe this guy. With this power, Elma can certainly make a living alone. Ares shouldn't have worried about him, but he soon notices the Heavy Knight is poisoned. He better take him to the city before the unthinkable happens. Another day comes and Elma's agenda is to register as an adventurer at Rondelm City's Adventurers Guild. He approaches the guild receptionist and states his name, level, and class. A stamp of approval on his papers a few moments later, and Elma's officially registered as an F-class adventurer. Adventurers have 7 ranks. A party needs an adventurer with at least rank E or higher to enter a dungeon. Also, a limit is placed on how much a skill tree can be upgraded. That's why Elma's Vow of the Heavy Armor is stuck on level 15 for now. He'll need to reach E rank as soon as possible. 2 adventurers take notice of Elma and instantly disses his level and class. Who'd want to team up with trash like him? Everyone in the guild is now laughing at the Heavy Knight. The receptionist quickly explains there's little demand for tanks, so it might take time for Elma to find party members. Lady, he didn't say he planned on doing that. Despite the adventurer's mockery, Elma keeps calm and removes the mana stones from his bag. The receptionist is surprised he got so much alone. Of course, the adventurers suspect the Heavy Knight stole the stones. There's no way he'd collect so many by himself. Now that Elma's registered and secured living funds, it's time for him to bust out the magic words from his previous life that gets his blood boiling. Is there a promotion quest that even I can take? The receptionist doesn't look impressed, but gives the adventurer the info nonetheless. That night, a group of adventurers gather at a graveyard. Goten, a burly man with a huge battle axe, stands as the leader. He heard there's a punk participating in today's raid quest, and by that, he means Elma. Goten's seen people like this Heavy Knight, newbies who make light of the guild and the monsters. This guy defeated a level 16 Elanda ape? Who's he kidding with that crappy lie? Adventurers aren't easily fooled. Goten better beat some sense into this Heavy Knight. Elma holds his ground amid the intimidation tactic. This is the worst, but a promotional raid quest doesn't come often, so he'll just have to suck it up. The Heavy Knight bows before Goten as a sign of respect for the seasoned adventurer. He scrutinizes the young man momentarily before accepting him into their group. Goten tells another adventurer they're about to begin. Tail uses search to determine they'll be up against approximately 30 monsters. The raid leader's small praise is enough to bring out the guy's arrogance, and he definitely won't let the chance to ridicule the newbie pass him by. Everyone's heard about Elma's stunt at the Adventurers Guild. The Heavy Knight observes Tail quietly. Judging from his equipment, he believes this guy must be a red mage. This class has high physical skills, offensive spells, recovery magic, and the ability to learn various support spells. Tail laughs as he says it's a shame to be stuck with a trashy class like Heavy Knight, but when he hears Elma's quite fond of his class, he dismisses it as nonsense. At the very least, Tail hopes this newbie won't hold them back. The Red Mage is a powerful class at a glance, as the archetypical jack-of-all-trades in games. Though this world isn't a game, it's still a given that versatile classes are treated more favorably. Before the raid officially starts, Goten briefs his companions. A ghoul head spearheads the army of undead they'll face. As the D-class adventurer, he'll take it down. The rest of the adventurers must maintain distance and defeat the small fries. Goten won't help them if they get tangled up. The ghoul head is approximately level 30. It has no offensive skills, but can create low-grade whites from corpses. The monster's undead breath is also troublesome, but they have a level 40 D rank adventurer. If things go as planned, they shouldn't lose. However, Elma observes his companions are either cowardly or arrogant. The chance of everyone escaping this raid is around 80%. If this was a game, the number of adventurers alone could secure the raid's success. But in this world, death means game over. With that in mind, Elma asks Goten to specify his orders for them. The burly man isn't keen to entertain the Heavy Knight's question. To Goten, it sounds like this newbie's trying to give him orders. Elma lengthens his patience. He makes it clear he's not ordering the D-class around. Since most of them are still low-leveled, they're scared and would appreciate detailed instructions. The Heavy Knight's pandering to the raid leader works, but as Goten's about to specify his orders, Tail interrupts. The Red Mage doesn't appreciate being lumped with the likes of Elma. The only ones who should be afraid of this raid are those with trash classes like the Heavy Knight. Tail declares they don't need further instructions. The scaredy cats are free to run to the backlines. While the Red Mage is running his mouth, the Whites have risen. Who's the scaredy cat now, huh, Tail? Goten orders Tail and Pole to keep up. There is flank after all. Elma assesses the situation. The ghoul head doesn't look like it grabbed anything more than a regular club. If so, it shouldn't be much of a problem. Elma leads the remaining adventurers to handle the ghoul head's goons. One of the adventurers shakily asks if they'll be charging through such a big group. They thought Goten was going to keep the Whites from grouping, but it looks like he's only focused on the boss. Elma now understands why the adventurers are all nervous. It's their first time fighting a group of monsters, not to mention they're up against these creepy undeads. In a situation with no proper instructions, it's understandable that they're hesitating. The Heavy Knight takes charge, ordering the adventurers to split into groups of 3. If they watch each other's backs, Whites shouldn't be a problem. The adventurer in chainmail accepts Elma's orders, but as he voices his concern for how the Heavy Knight will be left alone, a White creeps up behind him. Elma rushes to parry the undead's attack, making it skid off a distance. After it recovers from the shock, the White runs to strike the Heavy Knight, along with 2 other undeads. Elma parries his opponent simultaneously, and when they come rushing at him again, Rampart Return promptly takes care of them. The adventurer's jaws drop to the ground. Did they even need to worry about the Heavy Knight? If any of them needs help, he will rush to their aid immediately. Minutes into the battle, Elma has defeated over half of the Whites by himself. So, this is the rumored Heavy Knight. From defeating the undeads, Elma has risen to level 16. Parry's more useful than he thought, especially against enemies of this level. As he inspects his status board, he hears one of the adventurers think he's reliable, but now they're more scared of him. With everyone's efforts combined, the small fry Whites lay defeated. The adventurer in chainmail wonders if Elma's going to help Goten, but since the ghoul head's level is way above their own, the Heavy Knight believes it's better to let the raid leader deal with it. Goten and the ghoul head are locked in an intense battle. A strike from the burly man's battle axe lands and slices the side of the raid boss's huge face. That only serves to anger the giant head. As Goten gears for another clash with the raid boss, Whites approach to restrain him. The raid leader yells for Tail and Pole to quit gawking and do some fighting. They should be taking care of the undeads. What's with the lack of nerve? Goten has no interest in promoting cowards. Tail understands, but the ghoul head will target them if they get any closer. Though irritated by his companions, Goten has a bigger problem to take care of. He dodges the ghoul head's attack before landing his special skill, Boulder Smash. The powerful strike sends the raid boss tumbling. Elma observes from a distance. One more hit from Goten and they'll finish this raid. But the Whites keep coming. The adventurers by the Heavy Knight's side declare they'll handle the undeads, but Elma stops them. While the ghoul heads down, it reaches for the nearest White and promptly devours it. As the crunch of undead flesh echoes, the raid boss's HP goes up. So the ghoul head has corpse eating for healing, but Elma senses something is off. There's no reason to eat that many undead if the raid boss's goal is to heal once with corpse eating. The ghoul head bellows, taunting its enemies to attack. Goten raises his battle axe, ready to strike the raid boss now that 0 Whites are in his way. Elma finally realizes what's wrong with the monster. He screams for Goten to fall back as the ghoul head develops bulging muscles and sharper teeth. The raid boss has evolved into a level 40 madhead. This is not good. Evolution is a rare event in which a cornered monster brings out its latent potential to escape danger by evolving into a different species. Even in Magic World, the chances of this rare event occurring were unknown. In this situation, Elma can only say that they were simply unlucky. The Heavy Knight yells for the raid leader to get away from the madhead, but it's too late. The monster roars, and though Goten blocks it, he receives the abnormal status, Daze. Elma orders the shell-shocked Tail and Pole to distract the monster. If Goten drops out of this fight, they'll all die. But before the flanks can do anything, the Madhead smacks their raid leader to the ground and inflicts him with paralysis. As the raid boss goes in for the deciding blow, Elma runs to protect Goten and parry the monster's strike. He skids as the Madhead's power is too much for his current level. Without removing his gaze from the raid boss, Elma orders Tail to use heal and paralysis heal on Goten. But the red mage tearfully says he does have heal, but not paralysis heal. He hasn't gotten it since he poured his skill points into attack power-up. That isn't very reassuring. All Elma can ask of Tail is to take Goten somewhere safe and use heal on him. The paralysis from the Madhead's special skill, Paralyzing Toxin of Decaying Flesh, disappears in about 3 minutes. If the Heavy Knight can hold out for that long, then Goten can return to the fight after Tail heals him. Though Elma has memories of fighting this raid boss in the game, nothing could compare to experiencing this in real life. He taunts the Madhead to turn its focus away from his companions. Until Goten gets back on his feet, Elma will be the raid boss's opponent. The other adventurer stares at the Heavy Knight in disbelief. It's impossible for an F-rank adventurer to fight head-to-head with a monster like that, so they're better off taking this chance to escape. After all, they'll be the Madhead's next target once the Heavy Knight dies. Elma pays no heed to his retreating companions and assesses the situation. He's level 16 and his opponent is level 40. Making any mistakes could lead to his death. As the Madhead prepares to strike, Elma steps back and parries its punch. The raid boss proves strong, its fist sending the Heavy Knight flying to the other side of the graveyard. Elma wanted to avoid high-risk, high-reward situations where his abilities would be tested to their limits. But he can't deny this encounter has him fired up. Some adventurers who stayed to see the fight through observe the Heavy Knight, to think he's fighting evenly with the monster that blew away Goten. But if they look carefully, it's clear he's struggling. It's a miracle the Heavy Knight lasted this long. Elma smirks at the Madhead before jumping to evade its attack. He can't keep this up, so he must land a counterattack. Adding skill points to beginner swordsmanship raises it to level 5, giving Elma direct slash. This skill attacks using the blade from point-blank range and is effective even against opponents with high defense. Elma parries another punch from the Madhead. He strikes the ground with his blade to stop himself from skidding too far. In one swift motion, the Heavy Knight slides underneath the raid boss, leaving it wondering where its opponent went. This gives Elma a perfect chance to use direct slash on the Madhead. Since direct slash sacrifices range to get the jump on the enemy, most people regard it as a trash skill. But surprisingly, it works well for a Heavy Knight with a low offense and high defense. Still, Elma knows his attack isn't enough to take down the raid boss. The Madhead roars before releasing a series of onslaught on the Heavy Knight. Elma dodges each one with finesse, noting how erratic the monster's movements are becoming. The raid boss punches the ground in frustration. That's right, the real fight starts now because Elma's role is finished. From behind the Madhead, Goten jumps and brings his battle axe on the monster's huge dome. It's a special attack, Dragon Slayer. With one last kick to the ground, the raid boss goes down. Elma smirks as his level increases from 16 to 23. The raid leader looks at the Heavy Knight wordlessly. Though an F-rank, he managed to last long against attacks that almost ended even the level 40 Goten. Elma thanks their leader for saving him. Any longer than that and he would have died. Goten doesn't respond, choosing to simply stare at the Heavy Knight. In an unexpected turn of events, the burly, stoic man bows before Elma to apologize. Goten recognizes his lack of leadership and sloppy management. Everything in this raid went exactly as the Heavy Knight presumed. To reward Elma's efforts, Goten gives him the right to take all the monster's drops. A level 40 magic stone fetches a high price, and the Heavy Knight can really use something like that. But to be sure, Elma asks if Goten's truly alright with him taking it for himself. The raid leader reassures the newbie he can take everything. After all, he couldn't have defeated the Madhead without the Heavy Knight's help. Peering closer at the monster's corpse, Goten sees it left behind a rare drop. Elma wonders if the raid leader would like to have that, but Goten reiterates he won't take anything, and he's not about to go back on his words now, though he'd at least like to see the item status. Elma lifts the item from the monster's decaying flesh. The Shield of Madness gives plus 25 to defense and is valued at 3 million gold. Rampart Return only activates when the Heavy Knight blocks strikes with his armor, but with this shield, he can completely shut off any attacks of the same level. From Elma's shoulder, Goten peers at the 3 million gold shield. The Heavy Knight takes this chance to ask about the promotion. The raid leader tells him not to worry. He'll tell the guild they're fools if they don't let Elma rank up to E. Goten admits the guild asked him to watch over the newbie and ensure he's not involved with foul play. But now, that seems like unnecessary advice. Goten's sure to hit anyone who'll disagree with him. While the raid leader and the heavy knight laugh, Tail approaches them sheepishly. The red mage is hoping Goten will recognize his promotion. After all, he used heal on the leader. Goten looks at Tail disdainfully. The red mage completely held him back against the raid boss. How could he promote someone like that? There will be countless other dungeons more difficult than this raid. Tail needs to gather more experience before returning to Goten. The red mage's shoulders slump as he accepts the raid leader's decision. He peers at the heavy knight before lowering his hat in shame. At the Adventurers Guild, the receptionist gives Elma the raid's rewards. First is the initial 130,000 gold, then 200,000 gold for 10 white stones, and lastly 600,000 gold for the retrieval of a ghoul-turned-madhead's magic stone. Goten's belly laughing at how Elma out-earned him in this raid, but the receptionist has to confirm something with the raid leader. Did that heavy knight really defeat a variant of the ghoul head? Adventurers present echo the receptionist's doubt. The heavy knight also brought a high-level magic stone a while back. Isn't that suspicious? Or perhaps he has some kind of loophole. How the heck can a heavy knight earn that many magic stones? Goten slams his fist on the counter in anger. Are these lots suspecting Elma? Because that means they're also disrespecting his judgment. Everyone present is dumbfounded, none daring to go against the respected D rank. Thanks to Goten, the heavy knight can safely be promoted to E rank. Now, Elma wonders what to do next. He could try earning money through dungeon diving now that he can enter them, but his fighting style using Rampart Return is starting to lose its usefulness. Then Elma needs to find the skillbook, Smoldering Fang of Madness, a necessary item to bring out the heavy knight's true worth. A completed heavy knight can't be considered a defense specialist class anymore, but it's not an offensive specialist either. It's the pinnacle of a human weapon. To achieve that, Elma must combine the powers of two skill trees, Vow of the Heavy Armor and Smoldering Fang of Madness. Because of how rare the skillbook is, the heavy knight doubts it's in this town. He approaches the shopkeeper to buy 3 healing potions, which cost 72,000 gold. It's a tad expensive, but Elma guesses he needs to make some sacrifices. As the shopkeeper prepares his order, the heavy knight asks where he can buy skillbooks. He searched every store in this town, and he couldn't seem to find any. The shopkeeper wonders if it's this guy's first year as an adventurer. Selling and buying skillbooks is banned. Adventurers can use skillbooks they find, but the rest are purchased by the Adventurer Guild and given to nobles and churches. Noble families now have more influence than they did in the game. To think that something like this could happen, that means there's a high chance Elma's family, the Edvans, monopolizes the skillbooks in Rondam City. The shopkeeper takes pity on the heavy knight after seeing how crestfallen he is. She's not supposed to reveal this information willy-nilly, but she'll give him an exception. Elma can consider it as a bonus to the healing potions. The shopkeeper gives the heavy knight a sketch of a map with a store's location that sells dismantled items from dead adventurers. The store doesn't report its findings to the guild because of an unspoken agreement. The guild knows about black markets but doesn't do anything about them. They give the dismantled items not to the bereaved family but to the noble's pockets. The same goes for skillbooks. They hoard by stealing and never using them. Elma clutches the map, disappointed with how he's grown ignorant of this world. If his memories didn't return and he became a sword saint, perhaps he'd become a cruel noble like his father. Before Elma leaves, the shopkeeper reminds him not to disclose the information to anyone. The heavy knight wastes no time in finding the store. With how dusty, musty, and dark the place is, he wonders if they really sell skillbooks here. To Elma's surprise, they do. And there are even 5 books in their inventory. An old lady with claw-like nails notes how shabby-looking the heavy knight's armor is. The shattered grimoire hall isn't a place for youngsters like him. Elma says he has the money and wants to see the skill books. The shopkeeper tells him he's free to browse. A brat's fingerprints won't change their prices anyway. The first book Elma picks up is Beginner Archery with a market value of 2 million gold. That's a huge jump from the 500,000 gold he remembers in the game. But that's not all. The shopkeeper says she's selling it at 3 million gold. She crossed quite a dangerous bridge to get it. Thankfully, the government officials turned a blind eye to what she did. But if someone higher up found out, the shopkeeper would be shot dead. To think beginner skill trees cost this much. Even if Elma sold a shield, he doesn't think buying rare skill books would be possible. Taking out 4 of the 5 books, he sees these rare items are not what he needs right now. But with the last book, Elma's eyes widen. The Smoldering Fang of Madness is here, the Heavy Knight's mandatory skill tree. If Elma can get this book, the skill tree will be his. The shopkeeper is surprised to see the gleeful look on the youngster. It's quite strange for him to want something like that book, not to mention that she's selling it for 50 million gold. Elma heaves a long sigh. The old lady should hire bodyguards if she's selling items with prices like those. But the shopkeeper only dares him to have a go at her. She recently beat up 5 people like a drum. Elma can't afford the book right now, but he'll definitely gather the 50 million in return for the book. Until then, he asks the shopkeeper to reserve it for him. What's in it for me? A valid question from the old lady. Elma doesn't know how to respond, but the shopkeeper soon agrees to reserve the book for him. She doesn't dislike brats like him. All it'll cost him is an additional 5 million gold. Elma has to say the old lady's a shrewd one, and that means he'll need to work out his finances. How does one earn 50 million gold fast in this world? Though Elma regained his memories from a past life, it cost him everything he had, his family, friends, and status. All because he had to choose his favorite class in this game. The Heavy Knight is looked down upon as being a trash, defense-oriented class. But as an expert in Magic World, Elma knows that's not the case, quite far from it. He'll show his father and the Edvan Household that Heavy Knight should be respected and revered. One day, the whole world will know just how powerful Elma's favorite class is. Elma Edvan lives a cushy life as the heir to a noble family. But when he undergoes the Divine Blessing ceremony, the memories of his past life come rushing back to him. The world he's in is the same game he used to play, Magic World. With his mind muddled by memories of the past and present, Elma chooses his favorite class in the game, Heavy Knight. But he soon realizes this world regards the Heavy Knight as a defective trash class. For the record, this whole "the healer/tank class is so useless, let's lynch anyone who gets them" trope is really dumb. But one look at DPS nuts in the subreddit. Anyway, he gets disowned by his noble father, who decides to focus all his attention on some girl from the branch family of their household. Her name is Mary, and she's become a sword saint, which Lord Edvan much prefers. Not a very noble behavior if you ask me. And so, Elma is left to fend for himself. And with the little money he has left, he rents an inn and buys a weapon and armor. He tests his abilities in the forest, with the skill Rampart Return proving useful against low-level monsters. As long as his defense is higher than the enemies, he only needs to block their attacks to defeat them. Soon, Elma wins against an army of Lanas, raising his level to 8 and gains the title The Immovable. Ares, an adventurer, offers to join forces, but the Heavy Knight declines, preferring to level up alone. While the stubborn adventurer tries to convince Elma, his shouts attract a level 16 Alanda ape. Though this monster is twice the Heavy Knight's level, his new skill, Disarm, gives him a fighting chance. Disarm's 2-hit attack reduces the Alanda's ape attack power by 40%. Finally, activating Rampart Return secures Elma's win against the level 16 monster. Registering in the Adventurers Guild is next on the Heavy Knight's agenda. He becomes an F-rank adventurer, but other adventurers mock him because of his class. Elma remains calm and exchanges his impressive amount of mana stones, but that leads the adventurers to think he stole the spoils. Paying them no mind, Elma asks about a promotion quest and later joins a raid group led by the D-class adventurer, Gotan. Tail, a red mage, ridicules Elma for being a Heavy Knight. After all, his jack-of-all-trades class is leagues above the trash class. Gotan briefs the group on their mission to defeat a level 30 Ghoulhead and its undead army. Despite the raid leader's initial resistance, Elma manages to persuade him to provide detailed instructions for the raid. However, Tail interrupts and dismisses the need for instructions, belittling the Heavy Knight as he does. As the Whites rise, Elma takes charge and leads the adventurers to handle them while Goten focuses on the Ghoulhead. The Heavy Knight organizes them into 3 groups to watch each other's backs. When a White attacks one of the adventurers, Elma swiftly parries the attack. The Heavy Knight impresses the other adventurers by defeating numerous Whites and reaching level 16. As the battle against the Ghoulhead intensifies, Elma realizes the monster's ability to heal by devouring corpses is unusual. When the Ghoulhead transforms, Elma warns Goten to retreat, recognizing the increased danger of the monster's enhanced form, Madhead. While the raid leader goes down, Elma has no choice but to stall for time. Using his upgraded skill, Direct Slash, the Heavy Knight lands successful attacks on the Madhead. But he recognizes his limitation and creates an opening for Goten to land the finishing blow. Elma's level increases with the raid boss's defeat, leaving the raid leader in awe of his performance. The Heavy Knight thanks Goten for saving him, and the raid leader apologizes, acknowledging his shortcomings. Goten grants Elma the right to claim all the drops from the raid as a reward for his contributions. The Heavy Knight ranks up to E thanks to the respected D-class adventurer. Elma contemplates his future and sets his sights on acquiring a class-specific skill book. To become the ultimate human weapon, the Heavy Knight must combine the powers of 2 skill trees, Vow of the Heavy Armor and Smoldering Fang of Madness. Skill books are banned from being sold or bought. Fortunately, Elma discovers a black market store selling dismantled items from dead adventurers, including skill books. He finds the Smoldering Fang of Madness book, but can't afford its price of 50 million gold. Negotiating with the shopkeeper, Elma manages to reserve it by agreeing to pay an additional 5 million gold. Now, the Heavy Knight needs to figure out how to earn 55 million gold quickly. Elma must earn around 60 times the previous raid's reward to get that much gold. Why do high-ranked adventurers and shopkeepers have such a warped view of money? The Smoldering Fang of Madness is a rare skill tree, but only Heavy Knights and Berserkers have an interest in buying it. That means strong skill books are extremely expensive. Elma really needs to think of a plan to earn money fast. So far, he has 3 plans to consider. Plan number 1, save money by collecting rare drops in the dungeon. The downside is that Heavy Knights don't have a reliable way of giving damage. Plan number 2, farm mobs with rampart return, but that'll take too long. And plan number 3, learn beginner swordsmanship or get other skill books and study them. But those skills will immediately become useless once Elma gets Smoldering Fang of Madness. He'd rather avoid wasting skill points. With all 3 plans having caveats, the Heavy Knight thinks perhaps it's time to find allies. Even though his class isn't exactly popular, Elma's made a name for himself from the raid quest. Grouping with other adventurers will drastically increase his options to earn gold. Before Elma can decide on a plan, a group of adventurers heading his way catches his attention. The group leader, a swordsman, holds the blood-stained sword, a rare weapon he can't believe would drop. They can sell this for 2 million and live lavishly for a while. The jester, Luz Rubis, giggles, believing the rare blade dropped because of her skill. But it's obvious she's the only one thinking that, since her teammates are silent. Klein still doubts Luz's ability can make rare items drop. With her teammates doubting her, the jester's confidence drops. But she's soon fired up, knowing her ability can make a difference in their next dungeon dive. Klein peers at Luz coldly. Did this jester really think someone as useless as her in a fight would get a share from selling the rare sword? Luz makes a case for herself, albeit what little confidence she has left continues to wane. Even just 100,000 gold will be enough for her, but Klein only laughs. Sure, she fought with them at the front lines, but it's not like she has any decent attack skills. Klein needs the jester to do something other than just taking some aggro. As she is right now, she's completely useless. Luz tries her best to control her temper. She doesn't have any attack skills because Klein told her how to distribute her skill points. She finds it unfair of him to belittle her the second he gets an item worth a lot. Klein's expression turns sour instantly. Unfair, huh? Isn't Luz mistaken about something here? He only gave her advice on where to place her skill points, but it wasn't her choice whether to follow his directions. Elma realizes it's an argument because of skill allocation and reward sharing. Arguments like these were frequent in Magic World. Players would fill out their skill tree to complement the others in the party, but ultimately they'd become useless due to changing circumstances. Proving he has little respect for the jester, Klein throws the 100,000 gold on the cobbled streets. Luz can take it and leave. They accepted her into the party even when she lacked decent skills. To think the jester would show her true colors just for a paltry sum of money. Klein asks if Reese agrees. The bandit eyes the rare sword before playing along with the swordsman. With the situation becoming 2 versus 1, Luz apologizes and withdraws her request for a share in the rewards. But Klein quickly tells the jester it's too late to apologize. She's a lost cause now. So, good luck and good riddance. Elma observes the exchange, noting how financial troubles are said to be the root of many party breakups. It's a shame the jester's facing skill point allocation problems on top of that. The leveling system intends players to hunt opponents with a similar level to level up properly. But players can't defeat same-level opponents if they mess up skill point distribution, making leveling up much harder. So, did the jester pour her skill points in some useless weapon-based skill tree? That's when Elma remembers what the swordsman said. Because of that ability. Does that mean the jester has that skill tree? If she does, why is she being chased away? Elma knows he has to confirm things himself. Without thinking, he grabs the jester's arm and asks her to join his party. That's one way to freak out a girl. Luz stares at the sweating man grabbing her arm. She's too stunned to speak. And can you blame her? This guy jumps out of nowhere and begs her to join his party. Elma doesn't seem to sense the jester's uneasiness and convinces her to join by offering an 80-20 reward split, with her getting 80%. That sounds great and all, but Luz asks the guy to calm down first and let go of her hand. As Elma apologizes, Klein demands to know who he is. Oh, so this guy came for the member they kicked out of the party? Then he must be stupid. Luz's battle power is so low she can't even level up properly. Without batting an eye, Elma declares that's no problem, and he doesn't need the swordsman's permission anyway. It's not like the jester is his property. That quip from the weirdo rubs Klein the wrong way. Pointing the blade to his throat, the swordsman demands to know his level and whether he has any allies. Level 23 solo heavy knight? He should understand how useless the level 13 jester is at that level. Elma reiterates, it's not a problem. But his insistence only makes Reese suspicious. Isn't it weird that an E-rank adventurer wants Luce this badly? Wouldn't that mean that ability is significant? Klein drops his voice to a whisper. Why is Reese trying to mess things up? If Luce leaves without a fuss, that'd be just perfect. Seeing Reese isn't convinced, Klein explains there's no way a solo trash class could level up to 23. He's either lying or recently got kicked out of a party. He could also just be hitting on girls, and Luce caught his eye. What finally does convince Reese is the chance to escape scot-free from screwing up Luce's skill allocation. Sheathing the rare sword and putting on the most plasticky grin, Klein approaches Elma. He's been waiting for someone like the Heavy Knight, a trustworthy man he can safely send Luce to. The jester bows and accepts Elma's invitation, and this cherished moment is when the Heavy Knight gained his first party member. Klein congratulates the two for forming a party, and as a parting gift to Luce, he throws the 100,000 gold into the streets. It should be enough for her to get some proper weapons. The jester thanks the swordsman sheepishly, but before she can gather the coins, Elma stops her and tells Klein to pick up the money himself. It's laughable to say that something thrown on the ground carelessly is a parting gift. The Heavy Knight motions for Luce to leave with him. They wouldn't want to be indebted by even 1 gold to people like that. The newly formed party of 2 convene at a tavern. Luce is so happy to have been invited to a party, but she admits she's lacking in many ways. Like Elma's been repeatedly saying, there's no problem. Luce can increase her level if she fights monsters that fit her skill tree. The jester doesn't acknowledge the sound advice and instead asks a burning question. Was it love at first sight? Is that why Elma helped her? Before Elma can answer, Luce is already in her own world. For someone as high level as the Heavy Knight to protect her, love at first sight could be the only explanation. After all, Luce doesn't deny she's cute and charming. However, even if she thinks Elma's a wonderful person, she believes they should start as friends. To all that, the Heavy Knight can only cradle his head in frustration. So he cuts to the chase and confirms whether one of Luce's skill tree is great fortune. In Magic World, dungeons are nightmares seen by the sleeping god Azeroth. He came from the eternal void and created the world and countless gods. But in that eternal time, Azeroth started to lose his mind and was sealed by the very gods he created. However, the sleeping god's nightmares began to affect reality, creating monsters that opened gates to the world. These gates are called dream holes, also known as dungeons. Before they proceed, Luce shows Elma her status board, confirming whether he's okay with her even if this is all she has. Her lone normal skill, Dice Thrust, only works if the dice rolls a 6. It'd be better if Luce could put some points into the Fool's Acrobatics or Attack power-up. But as her status board shows, most of her points are in Great Fortune. Her skill trees are a huge failure. Elma assures the jester it's okay. After all, he needs her. The look from the Heavy Knight combined with his words is enough to make Luce turn beet red. What is he saying so suddenly? Elma needs to be more direct if he wants something like that. Or Luce won't understand, you know? The Heavy Knight realizes the jester's right, so he clarifies. In this expedition, they'll earn at least 30 million gold and carry Luce to level 30. Oh, so that's what Elma meant. Wait, what? How the heck are they going to do that? I guess this is where Luce just has to trust the process. After reminding the jester not to show her status board so easily to other people, they enter the dungeon. The recommended level is 50, but Elma's familiar with the monsters here, so they won't die. Besides, they're only going to farm around the first floor. The Heavy Knight will pull the enemies to him, and the jester will use her knife to take them down. Luce's expression turns serious, or at least, she tries to look serious. After all, Elma bought her an expensive knife. She can't afford to be timid. Luce will live up to the weird expectation and confidence the Heavy Knight has in her. While the party of 2 enjoy their friendly banter, a monster approaches. And isn't that just the cutest? But its level sure doesn't scream adorable. Elma quickly stands to shield his companion. The patchwork bear's attack power is just 22, so even if Luce somehow gets hit by it, she'll still have some HP left. But it's a different story if the monster lands a critical hit. With that, Elma advises the jesters to stop its movement entirely by striking just as it's about to attack. Wow, the Heavy Knight sure knows a lot about the monster. Is he a patchwork bear fan or something? Elma wouldn't call himself a fan of the monster, more like an avid Magic World gamer. With that, the Heavy Knight directs his teammate to prepare to take the monster down from its blind spot. He'll deal with its attacks. Despite its cuteness, the patchwork bear's bites and claws can be nasty. As the cuddly plush monster wobbles toward him, Elma uses Shadow Stomp, a skill that prevents the target from moving. The effect disappears the moment the user raises their foot from the ground. Elma got this nifty skill from the skill points he earned at the Madhead raid. With this, he'll help raise Luce's level. Elma reminds the Jester that shadows can be unpredictable, so she needs to stay alert. However, it's hard for Luce to take the monster seriously when it doesn't have claws or teeth to avoid. You spoke too soon, Miss Jester. Despite the gruesome transformation, Elma's unfazed. He jumps the patchwork bear, holding it down with his shield. With the monster immobilized, it's Luce's turn to do some damage. The Jester raises her Iron Piercer, noting how the patchwork bear looks so uncute now. After multiple whacks, Luce takes down the monster. The plush bear can take a beating. With the patchwork bear defeated, Elma asks Luce how many levels she gained, but the Jester's too busy searching for monster drops. When she doesn't find any, Luce wails. She'll get kicked out of this party again at this rate. But Elma quickly assures her it's fine. The patchwork bear is only for leveling up, and since they plan on farming a few more, the drops will probably appear sooner or later. As expected, the Heavy Knight is right on the money. 2 of the same items drop after taking down a couple more patchwork bears. Holding up the adorable bear shield, Luce beams and proudly offers the item to Elma. The Heavy Knight graciously accepts, though he finds it weird that the item dropped twice in a row like this. Did he misremember the drop rate? Elma knows Luce's skill, Beckoning Kitty from the skill tree Great Fortune buffs her luck stat by 500%. Considering her high base luck, he guesses double drops can happen. Then why did Klein's party fail to notice this? That's when it hits Elma. They probably didn't realize Luce's value because it was their first party overall. Still holding the bear shields, the Jester asks if she's useful this time. Elma gives Luce the praise and appreciation she deserves, prompting her to joke about him wanting the cute shields that badly. Maybe she'll get 10 more of them. But Elma tells the Jester that's fine for now. She's already raised her level from 13 to 20. Now comes the real deal. They'll be hunting the golden frog. The Lana, a frog that happens to be the first monster Elma took down, is the mascot mob enemy in Magic World. They have multiple variants. One of them is their target for today, the golden frog or golden Lana. Considering their situation, Elma has decided this is the only place they can farm the rare monster. Golden Lana shine like gold. Their spawn rate is extremely low, but defeating one will yield extremely valuable rewards. In addition, despite their high levels, they have low attack, magic, and 0 attack skills. In conclusion, a Golden Lana is a gift bag of high EXP, rare items, and harmless farming. These factors are why the Golden Lanas earned the nickname loot boxes from Magic World players. Many players would say farming them is the most fun thing you can do in the game, and that's also why Elma knows so much about them, like how they have a fairly high spawn rate in the middle parts of this dungeon. Roots with high spawn rates, roots that make them easier to spot, and monsters that'll appear around those roots. Elma has a solid grasp on everything. Hearing Luce say she knows about the Golden Lanas relieves the Heavy Knight. That'll save time explaining, so Luce knows about the grand rewards they can get from finding one. But she's also heard that, besides being very fast, the Golden Lanas show no sign of taking damage when hit. In some cases, people became too focused on chasing the rare mob and ended up surrounded by multiple monsters. Shivering, Luce doesn't doubt many adventurers lost their lives to the Golden Lanas. The Jester's explanation reminds Elma that, unlike in a game, if they die in this world, that's it. So, hunting Golden Lanas here won't be as straightforward as in Magic World. To better prepare Luce for the hunt, Elma explains Golden Lanas have very high speed and defense, 67 and 200 respectively. Not only that, they're immune to all debuffs. So, does that mean they can't do anything against them? The knife Luce received from Elma is supposed to be effective against foes with high defense, but she guesses it won't do anything to a Golden Lana, and it's not like her speed's enough to catch up to the mob. Elma concurs. Even with Iron Piercer's 15% penetration, it won't do much against the golden tank like the mob they're after. So what can they do? Is this impossible? But it's okay, Elma has a plan. Everything has a weakness. Luce is still hesitant, wondering if her companion has a skill that can damage Golden Lanas. But she's never heard of Heavy Knights having skills like that. Oh, she's right. And that's why, for this hunt, Elma will be counting on Luce. The Jester did not see that coming at all. Luce follows her teammate nonetheless. Elma instructs her to put the 8 skill points she gained into the Fool's Acrobatics. The 2 skills Luce will get from that will be crucial to their hunt. Still, though the Jester's glad her companion's counting on her, she knows she lacks ability. Before Elma can respond, he spots a monster approaching from his periphery. He blocks the toy box with his shield and launches it into the wall. While the monster's down, Elma calls for Luz to follow him. They can easily take down the mob, but it's not their target. Besides, if they drive it to a wall, it'll call backup. Luz is running now to keep up with the Heavy Knight's big strides. Is he certain they should focus on the Golden Lana? With Elma's knowledge and skills, they can target other monsters and climb 3 more levels. But the Heavy Knight insists they find the Golden Lana. He's already factored in the fact that they're difficult to find. They could find around 2 if they go at it for 1 more day. That's just how rare and valuable Golden Lanas are. Luz gulps as Elma's determination slowly rubs off of her. The Heavy Knight gives her the chance to back out now. Even with her great fortune skill, the Golden Lana isn't a mob they'll stumble upon easily. If the jester feels dissatisfied or unsafe, Elma encourages her to speak up. Fire burns in Luz's eyes, giving the Heavy Knight a thumbs up. She's okay and more than willing to follow Elma anywhere. As Luz says that, she spots a Golden Lana hippity-hoppeting down the corridor. Elma can't believe they found the rare mob so fast. Though panicked, Luz has the foresight to whisper to not alert the Golden Lana. Her companion reminds her to take deep breaths. She'll need a cool head before catching a monster like this. While the Golden Lana serenely hops away, Elma confirms whether Luz used her 10 skill points. She has, and as a result, she's obtained the 2 skills he mentioned earlier. With that, they can go ahead with their plan. The Heavy Knight will stay put and wait for the Golden Lana, so the jester needs to bait it toward him. That sounds clear enough, but Luz doesn't respond. She's too busy psyching herself up for the encounter. Elma tries to ease the tension by reminding her it's okay to fail and to control her breathing. With a loud exhale, Luz's eyes reflect unwavering determination. Let's do this. Golden Lana starts to run when it detects an enemy in a 4-meter radius. Coincidentally, this dungeon's walls have a width of 4 meters. Even if you go to the edge, the Golden Lana will still detect you, making it a difficult hunt. But that's only for the floors. Luz uses acrobatic steps to jump to the ceiling and land on the other side of the corridor. Now they have the Golden Lana trapped, but it's not going to surrender that easily. The monster quickly spots an escape route by the jester's side. Before the Golden Lana can hop to safety, Luz uses Doppel Illusion. It's impossible to pass through these illusions in this tight corridor, and the cowardly mob wouldn't dare try to attack. Due to the Golden Lana's immunity to status effects, it wouldn't be affected by daze or confused, but it can't see through Doppel Illusion. With nowhere else to go, the Golden Lana turns tail, heading straight toward Elma. The other weakness of this mob is that Shadow Stomp works on it. The Heavy Knight's only worry is whether he can deploy the stomp successfully. Even though the corridor is small, the Golden Lana's shadow is 50 cm at most. But Elma's not about to screw up a plan he came up with. He rummages in his bag and grabs the magic stone he bought along with Iron Piercer. Its healing is low, so it's not a valued item, but its healing light is exactly what they need. Elma throws the magic stone at the Golden Lana's path. The light it releases is strong enough to enlarge and elongate the rare mob's shadow. With that large of a target, the Heavy Knight lands Shadow Stomp without breaking a sweat. Got you, Golden Lana. They did it! Catching the Golden Mob with Shadow Stomp means they already have it. But wait, how is Elma planning to bring it down? The Heavy Knight eyes the squirming Golden Lana. There's no other way to defeat it than to hit it with a critical strike. This requires finding the perfect moment to attack. Not only does a critical hit do 1.5 more damage compared to normal hits, it also gives a pierce effect equal to 50% of the target's defense. Luz understands now. With the Golden Lana trapped, Elma has the leeway to try and land a critical hit as many times as he wants. She's rooting for him. Oh, but the Heavy Knight's attacks wouldn't damage this rare mob, even if they crit. That's why Elma said he's counting on Luz. To land a crit, both skill and luck are needed. But he's not in a state to land a crit. After all, the Heavy Knight can't move without the Golden Lana escaping. Luz feels the pressure now. What can she do when she's never landed a critical before? Elma looks at her gently, reminding her of the skill she's had since the beginning, Dice Thrust. Hearing the skill's name only reminds Luz of what Klein said. Dice Thrust is trash. But the jester soon realizes rolling a 6 will give them a guaranteed crit. When a 6 is rolled with Dice Thrust, the attack power is multiplied by 13, and the hit is a guaranteed crit. That makes the total damage increase 1.95 times. But that's not all. Iron Piercer's 15% penetration and Crit's 50% penetration overlap. That's a whopping 65%. However, will everything really go that smoothly? Luz doubts it will. To this, Elma offers a gentle smile and words of encouragement. Even if some skills are situational or late blooming, There's no such thing as a useless class skill. Luz shouldn't trap herself in the values people impose on her. What Klein said about her doesn't reflect who she is in the slightest. The Heavy Knight looks at the Jester squarely. He'll say it again, Elma needs Luz's strength. So he hopes she can lend him her strength once more. Now that's a pep talk. The Jester grips her iron piercer and turns to face the squirming Golden Lana. She'll do it. If Elma's willing to trust her, Luz won't back down. Pulling back, she pours everything she has on this one strike. The numbers circle iron piercer until finally it lands on 6. The Golden Lana goes down with one last croak. Luz turns to beam at her teammate. She did it, and now she's level 27 and Elma's level 30. Golden Lanas do give very high EXP, but more importantly, the main dish is the high quality item drops with a drop rate of 50%. And oh baby, they've struck gold. It's a Shining Lana's decorative sword worth 17 million. Luz looks at the shiny sword, not even daring to touch it. She can't believe they got 1.7 million gold just from one item. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Elma points out Luz is missing a digit. It's 17 million gold, and the shock's enough to make the Jester faint. After a moment, Luz somewhat calms down. But she still needs to pinch herself because she can't believe they'd get rich from one item. Realization dawns on the Jester. If people knew they were holding onto an item like this, they'd be in danger. Luz knows what to do. She and Elma can run away to some secluded backcountry village. Yup, that's the plan. Still as steady as stone, the Heavy Knight says Luz isn't wrong. They need to leave soon, but Elma wants to hunt one more Golden Lana before the sun sets. 3 hours later, Luz casts multiple dice strikes before she can land a crit. But the Golden Lana drops another sword worth 17 million gold when she does. Not to mention the huge level up boost their party's getting. Seeing the Jester motionless, Elma assures her a few misses aren't a big deal. She can think of it as saving up her luck for when it counts. Oh, but Luz isn't upset about that. She just can't wrap her head around the 34 million gold they have now. That's 3 10 millions. With their huge haul in the bag, it's about time they head out of the dungeon. Elma makes sure Luz knows they couldn't have obtained those 2 swords without her. Now they need to think of skill allocations. But before they can, Luz hears something unnerving. It's a crying baby. Elma's on high alert now. That could only mean they have a wandering lord on the loose. The Dream Lord usually remains cooped up, motionless at the end of the dungeon. However, it will sometimes creep out of its lair and wander around the dungeon. It's then called a Wandering Lord. Wait, isn't the so-called Lord of Dreams a level 50? This is bad. But in contrast to the panicking Jester, the Heavy Knight is calm and collected. Well, one of them has to be. Elma tells his teammate they'll need to run from the noise source and head for the exit. Even the Dream Lord can't chase them outside. A simple plan. Head for the exit and claim today's rewards in the city. Then their story for today will end on a happy note, just like that. However, things aren't so simple. This world might be like Magic World, but the risks and the danger are all real. This isn't a game. That much is clear to Elma at the sight of 2 bloodied adventurers desperately asking for help. Judging by their condition, there's no way they'll escape. If they leave the adventurers be, they'll 100% die here. The Heavy Knight stands to shield his teammate and the wounded. He orders Luz to lead the adventurers to the exit while he holds the monster here. The Jester's eyes widen. She understands, but against a level 50 monster, even Elma couldn't possibly survive. The Heavy Knight responds without turning to Luz. He knows what the enemy is. If all Elma needs to do is buy time, he's sure he can do it. After all, getting an enemy's attention is the main role of a Heavy Knight. Before his companions can retreat, the enemy shows itself. Holding a bloodied sword and pitter-pattering straight at them is the Tin Knight. Elma reiterates his order. He'll buy them some time, leaving the wounded in Luz's care. Analyzing the enemy, Elma sees it has about half of its HP. This isn't the worst case scenario. Luz realizes they can both take it down with how the enemy is considerably weakened. But the Heavy Knight says it's useless and orders her to run away. The Tin Knight isn't the Dream Lord's real body. It's only equivalent to one of its limbs, and the real body will arrive soon. All the color drains from Luz's face. 3 level 40 Tin Knights stand before them. Hearing Elma firmly order them to leave him here, the Jester can't help but argue with him. She can't leave him to fight these things alone. Didn't Elma say they'd always fight together? Desperate to get his companions to safety, the Heavy Knight spouts hurtful yet necessary words. He can't fight these opponents while taking care of baggage. Luz will be a hindrance. The Jester's heart sinks. Lowering her weapon, she apologizes to Elma and tells them to catch up as soon as possible. And with that, the Heavy Knight faces the level 40 Tin Knights alone. If it were just these 3 level 40s, Elma could have asked Luz to stay back and clobber them together. However, the real body is still creeping over. He convinced Luz he'd find an opening and catch up with them, but that was a lie. A heavy knight like Elma doesn't have the speed to do so. The story might have been different if it were just the Tin Knights, but running away is impossible with the magic-wielding Dreamlord as an opponent. Elma will need to take it down right here. The Dreamlord's embryo finally reveals itself. For a level 50 monster, its status is relatively low. The problem is Elma can't damage it. The embryo's flesh has terrifyingly high defense, and the only vulnerable part, its eyeball, can only be hit by long-range attacks. But as long as the monster has a weakness, even a low-level solo player like Elma can crush it. With the vow of the heavy armor reaching level 27, the heavy knight has gained the normal skill Shield Bash. Elma taunts the enemies to attack, and it works. One of the Tin Knights charges at him, a perfect opportunity to use Shield Bash. With the normal skill sending his opponent flying with considerable force, Elma can break their formation. The remaining Tin Knights slice at the heavy knight together, but the close-range fight allows Elma to use parry and disarm on his opponents. From above, the embryo sizzles with energy. This monster's skills, Sylph Cutter and Thunderstorm, can't be cast without hitting the Tin Knights. So, Elma can focus his attacks solely on the level 40 mobs. With a slice, the heavy knights inflict his second disarm on one of the Tin Knights. His first disarm still has 47 seconds. He has met the activation requirements. Rampart Return. The Tin Knight flies to the wall and breaks instantly. The hard part starts now. That's one level 40 enemy down, but as long as the embryo is still there, it can use Repair to continuously revive the Tin Knights. Whenever the floating flesh uses magic, it exposes its only weakness, the eyeball. With no time to lose, Elma grabs an item from his bag and throws it at the embryo's eye. A direct hit. This is his only attack that can reach the monster's weakness. The Patchwork Bear magic crystal releases innumerable earth needles when thrown using MP. With the embryo agitated, it'll soon be prompted to use Sylph Cutter. When that happens, Elma can use the Tin Knights as cover. As long as he keeps his guard up, he shouldn't get one-shotted by its attacks. Elma uses Shield Bash, but the Tin Knight moves away to avoid the shield. The two other mobs appear from his back to launch a coordinated slice attack. It takes everything the heavy knight has to block, dodge, and land a critical hit on his enemies. The critical strike gives Elma just enough time to jump away and put some distance between him and the Tin Knights. Without a doubt, his enemies are learning. In Magic World, no monster could react to Shield Bash and avoid it. But here, the Tin Knights are learning his skill's movements. It's not like Elma didn't take this into account, but that makes defeating the embryo that much harder. Elma must throw 3 more magic crystals to eliminate the floating flesh. Not to mention the Dream Lord gradually restores its health. If the heavy knight wastes time, it'll completely heal itself. While Elma's busy assessing the situation, the embryo launches a surprise Sylph Cutter. From this position, it shouldn't have fired off that skill. The heavy knight raises his shield, but it's no use. He knows this will be too much for him. The embryo laughs in its eerie, baby voice. As the Tin Knights surround him, Elma's consciousness starts to fade. His pulse is fast, and he can't put any strength in his legs. Elma's been inflicted with stun. At times like these, getting stunned is a death sentence. Elma wonders if this happened because of his low luck stat. Perhaps he should have asked Luz to stay back after all. Obvious in hindsight, huh? Here comes the Jester to the rescue. She pulls Elma away just in time to avoid the Tin Knight's attacks. It's about time the Heavy Knight called for her. Luz uses Doppel Illusion to keep the enemies at bay while Elma recovers. But instead of thanking the Jester, the Heavy Knight's furious. What is she doing? Luz was supposed to run away with the wounded adventurers. Tears pool in the Jester's eyes. She didn't hear Elma catching up at all. So she carried the wounded to a safe spot and returned to check on him. Elma said he would run away, yet here he is, trying to fight the high-level monsters. The Heavy Knight admits this is the result of his stubbornness and begs the Jester to turn back. But nope. If that's the case, Luz will become stubborn and stay here with him. Elma rescued her and risked his life to protect her. He said he needed her strength. If Luz runs and abandons someone who's done all that, she'd be better off quitting as an adventurer. Elma is speechless. When he does speak, his voice is quiet and reasoning with the Jester. The Heavy Knight's only method of attacking the monsters no longer works, and neither of them has long-range attacks to hit them. Luz shouts at the Heavy Knight. Is he giving up? When she was saying how useless she was back then, didn't Elma say he'd rely on her? So, Luz begs him to rely on her once more. The Heavy Knight smiles. It looks like he's been underestimating his companion. But now, Elma will be counting on Luz. He needs her strength, and they'll attack the embryo together. One of the Tin Knights rushes to slice the adventurers. This time, Elma runs toward it to use Shield Bash, leaving the mob no chance to avoid the skill. Another Tin Knight appears from the side, but before it can strike, Elma deflects its blade. While the Tin Knight staggers, the Heavy Knight calls for Luz to attack. The Jester drives her Iron Piercer to the monster's side, sending it crashing to the wall. Oh, now the embryo's mad. It uses repair on the Tin Knights. One after the other, the mobs stand with their HP full. When it comes to a battle of endurance, the adventurers will lose. They need to take down the embryo. So what's the plan? Elma narrows his eyes. They'll defeat the level 50 monster with Luz rolling a 6 on dice thrust. He needs her to pull off that 1/6 chance. The embryo has a defense of 88 when it closes its eyelid. A critical hit with dice thrust, which could pierce through the golden lana, should be able to damage the embryo significantly. But how can Luz reach the eyelid that high up? With acrobatic steps? That'll only make the Jester an easy target for the embryo's self-cutter, so that's a no-go. Here's what Elma has devised. He'll try to close the distance while Luz follows behind him. If they manage to get close, he'll use Shield Bash to throw the Jester directly at the embryo, but there's way too much risk involved. If they fail, they might both end up dead. Despite the possibility of dying, Luz is more than ready to do her part in the plan. She'll do it and definitely roll a 6. Elma runs to face the Tin Knights head-on, with Luz behind him. He takes down one of the mobs with a critical strike. Now is the Jester's chance. Fly! Their plan has gone perfectly up to now. All that's left is to pray to the Goddess of Fortune. When they were fighting the second Golden Lana, even with Luz's high luck stat, a 6 didn't come out after attacking 7 times in a row. Elma knows this is a meaningless, biased guess, but the probability should stack. Luz pulls back Iron Piercer before using Dice Thrust with all her might. They only have one chance, so please, let it work. The dice lands on a 4. It's a miss. The embryo laughs cruelly at the adventurer's failed plan. Is this the end for Elma and Luz? Despite the Heavy Knight's initial resistance against forming a party, his goal to become the ultimate human weapon forces his hand. As luck would have it, he encounters the Jester with a highly valuable but easily overlooked skill tree called the Great Fortune. With Luz by his side, Elma's goal of acquiring the skill book Smoldering Fang of Madness is within reach. But even with a reliable companion in his party, the Heavy Knight learns how unforgiving this world really is.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.